And we're live. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this afternoon's webinar. I hope everyone's doing better than this miserable weather that we're having this week. My name's James Owen. I'll be your host this afternoon, and I'm the Partnerships Manager at Fresh Relevance. So the title of this afternoon's webinar is how to prevent shoppers from switching brands. So a real hot topic at the moment. And this is off the back of an ebook that we published a couple of months ago with 8 other contributors from all things kind of e-commerce, loyalty, referral programs, personalization, obviously like ourselves. And I'm also joined by 2 other industry experts as well that contributed to the ebook that we're going to be discussing our findings, and we want to kind of keep it as informal as possible. So we'd love to see as many questions as you can sent across to us. So there's a little chat window that you should see on your screen. So do shoot your questions across. We've saved some time at the end, and we'll try and get through them as many as we can as possible, basically. So let me introduce the chaps that I'm joined with this afternoon. So what I'll do is I'll start with Andre from VisualSoft. If you could give a little introduction of yourself, your role, and a bit about VisualSoft. And then to make it fun, if you could share maybe a bit of a bad anecdote or experience that you've had with a particular brand. Feel free to name said brand if you like, and just kind of talk us through it if you can.
Absolutely. Thanks, James. So yeah, I'm Andre De Guy. So I'm the Senior Partner Manager at VisualSoft. So VisualSoft are an e-commerce platform that really helps retailers on that growth journey scale their business quickly and effectively. And we have about £1 billion through our platform every year. So yeah, we really support retailers on that growth journey. And yeah, I guess in terms of bad experience, I'm going to dive straight in and name names. So Sky, I'm very sorry, you gave me a terrible experience with activating my broadband. This was a few years back. I had switched providers from BT to Sky because I wanted the TV package from Sky. They just couldn't activate my broadband. It took 3 weeks and it was still not active. You know, TV was fine. TV was up and running. They just could not seem to get the broadband up and running. Even though BT had that same line, broadband was working absolutely fine right up until the day of switching, and then no broadband after 3 weeks. So yeah, I will never be using Sky for broadband again. I'm very sorry. I switched back to BT and I've been with BT ever since. But then I know lots of people who do use Sky and have a great experience, but my personal experience wasn't great. And unfortunately, I won't be using them for broadband again.
Oh, brilliant. No, thanks, Andre. Over to you, Dominic.
Thanks, James. Hi, guys. Great to be here. So my name is Dominic Corelsi. I am the marketing manager for Miapi. And Miapi is Fresh Relevance's official UGC partner. And at Miapi, we help brands build trust and boost sales ultimately through the power of authentic user-generated content and the power of communities as well. So helping brands license, discover and license authentic content that their customers are creating on social, and then injecting that into the path to purchase where it can have impact on prospective customers. And my example is quite a recent example, actually. We recently moved house and finally managed to have my own little office space, my own little box room to call my own. And so I was looking to buy some things like desks and cameras and stuff like that to help me get set up. And somebody had got in my head that I needed a adjustable electronic desk that raises up and down, something that never crossed my mind before. I was happily going to buy a cheap thing from IKEA, but once someone, planted that seed, I was like, I need to get this. Did loads of research on it, found one for a really good price on PC World, Curry's PC World website. That is actually a brand that I was fairly loyal to in terms of buying gaming stuff and tech stuff from. And I also visit the store. It's quite close to me as well. However, I had an infuriating experience online. I was about to drop a load of cash actually on the weekend on this particular weekend on not only the desk but another like a monitor and other things I needed, and I was really excited, ready to go, and it was just a glitch really. I had 2 things in my basket, and for whatever reason, every time I went to check out, the desk that I was so desperate for kept dropping out without any explanation. Couldn't couldn't get to the bottom of it. I actually have to praise PC World at the same time, because at the same time they introduced their new live chat feed feature on the website, where you can actually FaceTime someone in a matter of a few seconds. It almost like takes you a bit unaware. You suddenly face with someone live in a matter of moments. And anyway, they were really they weren't helpful. Sorry, they were really nice. They couldn't actually get to the bottom of why this product wasn't there. They kind of believed it was perhaps because it was out of stock. But again, it wasn't. It was a lack of communication. It was a technical error. It was really unfortunate, but it really cheesed me off. And in the end, I had to navigate to the tried and tested Amazon and get something the next day. And I managed to find it. And yeah, they really missed out, because I was about to spend a lot of money with Curry's PC World. But yeah, that's my story.
No, that's brilliant. Well, thanks, Andre and Dominic, for sharing. And it's really great to have you guys on this on the panel this afternoon. So why don't we dive on into it then, on why we're all here. And this is quite an interesting one to start. And this is all with regards to the likelihood of consumers to switch brands. A bit of a hot topic at the moment. Now, off the back of the ebook that we looked into, the consumers told us that e-commerce businesses need to work hard to keep them from switching to a different brand. 33%, so more than 1 in 3 consumers frequently try new brands and have no problem from a brand that they're used to previously, like switching from a brand that they're usually previously to a different one. And then also almost half of consumers, 42%, say they prefer shopping with brands that they've previously shopped with, but would switch to a different brand depending on the circumstances. And then finally, this means up to 77% of your customer base might be ready to jump ship. So maybe if I can draw on a new Dominic on all things user-generated content, maybe on the topic with regards to maybe trying out new brands and switching from a previous brand. How do you think that kind of plays into it? Is that just us as humans being curious, looking into different things, maybe seeing something on the kind of content side? What's your sort of thoughts on that?
I think in this day and age where particularly things have been accelerated, the digital transformation has been accelerated by COVID. Every brand is e-commerce now, and the online experience is much of a muchness. It's really hard for brands to get cut through. I think, consumers are looking for little nuances, anything to make the difference. And obviously I'm going to talk about user content here. I'm a bit biased, but I think it just makes sense. There is research from Nielsen, and we regularly touch on this piece of research that showed that 92% of consumers trust earned media such as recommendations from family, friends, or people they don't even know above anything a brand would say, in traditional advertising. And that says it all. People trust people at the end of the day. And when it comes to buying a product, I think for me personally, I have to see reviews. I have to see visual evidence of people being happy with that product. Otherwise, I feel just blind. I mean, this never used to be the case. I think about how did I buy stuff back in the day, taking such a big risk online. But I think the modern consumer really needs those social signals, we call them, or social proof, if you like. And I think that can really make a difference in the path to purchase. If someone's in that consideration phase and then they're suddenly served with, someone who's really happy with the product that you were looking at 5 seconds ago, that can really make the difference between choosing that brand and someone who isn't showing and displaying user-generated content and positive sentiment from other consumers.
No, that's so true. I used to work at Trustpilot before freshrelevance, so I know the power of user-generated content, reviews, and also how influential and important they are. People are going to be seeking those out before they finalise their purchase. So if they're maybe thinking about looking at a new brand for the first time, they're kind of flirting with the idea of switching brands, and that brand's got a real kind of slick website, got some real positive reviews there from a third-party brand, like say a Trustpilot or a FIFO, for example. It can be quite influential to give it a go. And Andre, so yourself, I know you used to work in personalization. Obviously, you guys at VisualSoft now have got a really slick platform. Is there anything more you'd kind of add into that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really about providing that great customer experience and making that customer feel loved, I think essentially is what it's about, and reducing the number of clicks. And personalization is absolutely able to do that. You've been on the site before, you've maybe been browsing around but not made a purchase. You come back to that site, you want to see the products that you looked at last time.
Yeah, of course.
It's common sense really. And I think it's two things. I think everyone has upped their game now online. It's not, everyone is using these trust signals and the social that Dom spoke about there. They've all got a Trustpilot or a FIFO logo or a reviews.io logo. They've all got kind of free delivery or, delivery promotions. They've all got those kind of trust signals. So how do you differentiate? And I think that's added to why consumers are so willing to switch brands now, because they go on all these websites. Oh, look, they've got the same kind of content, the same kind of information. I think also the other element to that is, in a post-pandemic world, there's more of a moral aspect, I think, to it now. So people are maybe more willing to support local businesses. Obviously, smaller businesses were struggling a bit more, during the pandemic, obviously depending on sector. But I think people were maybe willing to pay a bit more to support a local business. So there's that element. But for me personally, it's not about price now. I know in the research that price was the number one factor. That was the highest percentage of why people switch. And of course, price is really important. For me, what's more important is the customer service. So the service that I receive. I'm paying a little bit more if I know it's going to be here the next day because I've used that brand before. They always get my delivery to me that next day. So therefore, I'm going to pay a little bit more just to have that service. And I know if there's a problem, they've got live chat there. They've got all these ways I can get in touch with the business and actually speak to a real person. So yeah, lots of different factors involved. But for me personally, it's about having that great customer experience on site.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I guess that probably ties into the other point that I'd love us all to expand on, is with regards to 42% of people saying that they would prefer to keep shopping with brands that they've had previous experience with, but they wouldn't mind switching depending on the circumstances. Maybe it's kind of, I don't know, creature of habit. You've bought from X brand before and it arrives the next day. You kind of know what to expect and you're probably familiar with the look and the feel of the website, basically. So I guess it's just kind of catching their eye really and kind of getting them to consider other areas. And that's probably like my app, you guys, Dominic, again, like I was sort of saying on the user generated content piece, if someone is scrolling through Instagram and they start to see some paid advertising or a friend of theirs tag a particular brand, you think, well, that looks quite slick, that looks quite cool. That can obviously be quite interesting to swaying people. And I think there's also an expectation as well, isn't there? If we purchase something online, it's not like back in the day where you would kind of put your card details in online and maybe crossing your fingers if it would turn up. Everyone's obviously on e-commerce, everyone's online. We've got the buyer protection. So I think people can be maybe a little bit, trying out these other brands and seeing how they get on, basically. And of course, it's quite scary to think when we combine the figures together that 77% of your customer base might be ready to jump ship. So I think it's always important to probably factor in providing that great customer experience. So things that we do at Fresh Relevance, providing and serving up that personalized content on web and email, just keeping everything, I guess, quite synchronized. Now, I'm keen to get onto the next brand because there's the next slide. There's some really nice statistics in here and some things that we can all kind of think about. So if I delve kind of further into these common factors then about what will make consumers switch brands, above all, like you said, Andre, so you're having a cheeky little look into the ebook before the webinar, 40% of respondents have switched brands in the past because the brand offered a better price. Coupon codes, obviously the likes of Google Shopping, you can flick through. If you're buying a specific brand and someone's offering it cheaper or with free delivery, that can be the difference, can't it, really? And the desire to try something new is also a key reason. 35% of respondents having switched brands in the past. Just want to try something new out. Almost 1 in 3 consumers, 30%, have switched brands because their product was sold out. That's really interesting. And drawing back to what you were saying, Dominic, about your bad experience as well at Curry's PC World, looking to buy a product, fully ready to splash the cash, and then a bit of an error on the website, not updating the product, back office speaking to the front office, for example, and that can cause people to be frustrated and move. And then finally, 1 in 4 consumers have switched brands because a new brand was recommended to them by family, friends, which indicates that the value of referral programs now. See, we had mention me, contribute to this ebook, so they know obviously all things referrals and the power of a recommendation. Now, going back to you, kind of Dominic, again, having switched brands, getting your funky desk from Amazon. So with 40% of respondents having switched brands in the past because the brand offered a better price, is that it really? Do you reckon there's any more to it? Do you reckon it is just people trying to save a couple of quid online, basically?
Like I mentioned before, I think for me, obviously, if I didn't have that technical issue with the website, it would have been a different story, perhaps. But also, I'm so reliant on recommendations, and like you said, this is definitely relevant to mention me, and it's also extremely relevant to the bread and butter of what we do at Miapi. It's a big risk sometimes to brand switch, depending on the product and depending on how much money you're going to spend. Particularly in my case, the amount I was going to spend. I'd done my research already. I'd already kind of looked for UGC at that point and seen people with the desk. I think written reviews are really powerful, and Trustpilot is also a partner of Miapi's. But when it comes to visual, it adds that extra layer of reassurance, seeing a happy face or just seeing it in situ as well. So I think that's really important. That's part of the research, part of the consideration process is going away. And if you're really going to switch, you want to be sure that you're going to make the right decision, and the way you can do that and minimize risk is by seeking out positive reviews, visual or written. But price is definitely important, and for me, it's also about convenience. Like I said, I wanted something quick. I want to just get on with it, and in the end, I think no one's going to do it quicker than Amazon in most cases.
Yeah, I mean, I've ordered far too much stuff from Amazon. I hate to look back at some of my orders and things, but it's just so convenient, isn't it? Arriving the next day, and you kind of have that level of service, don't you? Time and time again, you can get that better price as well. Now, Andre, over to you then. Obviously, switching from BT to Sky to BT, you probably had a bit of a desire maybe to try something new, get your Sky package sorted out, and you kind of switch back. Do you reckon it is just us being curious as human beings, wanting to try something new, or do you reckon it's maybe a little bit more to it? They've had a particular grumble with a brand or recommendations. Do you reckon it kind of ties up into a few things?
Yeah, it obviously does. There are many different factors involved. I think, there are always going to be cases where, you realize you've used a brand for a while and you think, well, actually, are they that great? Are there better things out there? And that's certainly what I did, with Sky. I was thinking, well, I'll get the TV package, I'll get the broadband up and running as well. Didn't quite work out how I imagined it to, and there is an element of the grass is always greener. I think when you use a brand, sometimes it is better, and people switch and they stay with that other brand. But as Dom says, price is always going to be a factor. But I think it's seeing that product has been purchased and appreciated by other customers. And I think, I use Amazon a lot as well. What I tend to do is I scroll down, look at the reviews, and I like to see the customer photos, that product actually being used or being received and unboxed by someone with a real photograph, because obviously, product images, they're made to look the best that they can look, and often quite artificial. So seeing a photo of that product being used, whether that's a social feed or whether it's just a photo as part of a review, is really important. And I think have that real life experience from the customer. So yeah, I think it's a number of different factors. For me personally, it's not just about price. Obviously, that is involved in my decision. But if I'm doing a search for a product and I see that one retailer is £5 more, they've got 50, Google reviews, and the other have got 0, but it's £5, 10 quid cheaper, I'm going to use the more expensive one because I know that that's a trusted brand. People have actually used them, they've received their product. So more than price for me is trust. That's ultimately what it's about. People have used them, they've got those reviews there. So yeah, no,
that makes perfect sense as well. And of course, the platform VisualSoft things like product out of stock, I kind of view that as pretty basic thing. So if you're selling a product and it goes out of stock, you don't want to be advertising that product. As you can see here, 30% of people switching brands because maybe that product is out of stock. Things like that, that's where you could kind of tie in the kind of cross-channel personalization approach as well. So if someone has been browsing a specific product that is then out of stock, just sending them a little email like, hey, Andre, the product that you've been looking at is now back in stock. Here's a coupon if you'd like to kind of come back on board and buy this product, basically, or just to kind of let you know. And that kind of goes that one step beyond of providing that real personalized experience online. I think that's been lacking in quite a few brands. Obviously, I'm biased working for a personalization platform, but it's just sort of, it seems simple to me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about communication at the end of the day. And it's, even if the product's out of stock, like you say, let them know that it's out of stock and when it's likely to be back in stock. And it's, it's communicating with the customer. All of the brands that I use, all the websites that I use, they all do that really well. So you place an order, they send you a text message, thanks for your order, here's your tracking number. Or you get the email, you get post-purchase, how was your product a week later, 2 weeks later?
Yeah.
And abandoned basket emails, obviously, which are, pretty common now. And you get also text ones, SMS now, it seems to be coming back a little bit. You left this in your basket, click here to kind of revisit and check out. So yeah, it's all about communication, keeping the customer informed.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fantastic word. I think that was what I was trying to get across in what I was saying then. But yeah, communication. I think back when I was at Trustpilot and the pandemic, it just started to kick off, basically. So of course, everything was delayed. The whole world was delayed. And there was unfortunately a few people that had bought something from a specific brand online, paid for next day delivery, hasn't turned up next day, hasn't turned up the next week. And that's just because of COVID. And it was just a few brands, so simple, just at the top of their website, put a little banner and just said, because of the pandemic, because of COVID, expect orders to be delayed by X. We're doing everything we can. But there was a few brands that kind of overlooked this point, maybe just because they had a lot on their mind, I'm sure. But there were still consumers that would go on to Trustpilot and absolutely rinse them. And you just think, well, surely have the foresight that maybe your item that you're buying might not arrive the next day because of XYZ reasons. So I think, yeah, communication is definitely key there for sure.
Really.
And I guess we can kind of flick on then on the cross side to that, the kind of flip side, why consumers stay loyal then. So, I mean, 44% saying value for money. I mean, it's just so obvious, basically. I think with everything going up, the cost of fuel, just living going up, I think we want to kind of feel that if we do spend our hard-earned pennies with a retailer, we want to feel that we're getting as much value for money as possible, basically. And then kind of dropping down into convenience, which is, they're all quite similar looking at these, 27, 26, 24, 24. They all kind of level out the same and I guess pull together. But convenience is another important factor as well when it's coming to loyalty, with over 1 in 4 of consumers saying loyal for brands just because they're convenient. So like we've all touched on, Amazon, I think they've really got the gap in the market, haven't they, with the convenience there. Again, 1 in 4 people staying loyal to brands who reward their customers for loyalty and make customers feel valued. That's just a really nice little touch there. And then 1 in 4 consumers as well loyal to brands that offer great customer service. So, for example, responding to and resolving issues quickly. So, Dominic, like your experience with Currys, PC World, there you are, ready to get your checkbook out. Someone pops up on the live touch and they're being really friendly, but they just don't have the answers. It can be quite frustrating as well, can't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I couldn't understand how they weren't able to get to the bottom of it. They're working for the same company. Surely they can communicate. So it was a bit of a disconnection there. But I think, like you said, convenience is just so important when you want a customer to repeat purchase. Convenience is really key. I know you can't really compare Amazon with every e-commerce brand out there.
Yeah.
But like you said, as long as you can communicate well when you can expect delays, when you can expect product to be back in stock. Actually, I can't remember the last time I've had a return to stock email. I feel like I've been lied to my whole life. Because that's such a key moment when you really want like a pair of trainers that you've had your heart set on, and then they're out of stock, and you just, I've got to a point where I just expect that I'm gonna have to get a different pair of trainers, like full stop, let alone buy from the brand.
Shoe size.
Yeah. But I think another one is interesting, even though it's lower down on here, where you've got values me, and that's obviously important in, you know, CRM, emails, and through personalization as well, is demonstrating how well the brand knows the customer. And I won't get into it too much. It's for an example later on, but like I think ASOS does this expertly well, and there are other fashion brands that do it well, and there's fashion brands that don't do it so well, that they just hit the note when you come back. You know, when the brand's got first party data in their pocket, and they're able to learn what you've done, what you like based on what you haven't clicked on. And ASOS just smashes it out of the park every time in terms of, you know, they can tell that I like neutral colors and beiges, and then they can tell I like sports brands as well. And then you just end up just spending an unhealthy amount. I think that's really key. And then another one is about sharing values, which I think is quite hard. And I don't see a lot of brands kind of putting their money where their mouth is. It is a hard thing to do, but, you know, purpose marketing has been a big thing the last 3 years, you know, showing that brands care and they're doing something about environmental or social causes. Recently we worked with Dove, the Unilever brand, for their Project Show Us campaign. And this was they're obviously known for doing kind of social good campaigns, you know, about body positivity, and it's not easy to replicate for other brands, but it was such a good example of how they were demonstrating that they were aligned with what their customers cared about, and that in turn creates brand affinity. So that was about, like, they were asking customers to submit their stories on what they felt like beauty meant to them, using their stories of, you know, cancer survivors or burn victims, with elaborate stories of why they still think they're beautiful, and rightly so, obviously. But that was about building brand affinity, because they were giving them a voice by reposting their content. And I think any brand can do that, really. Find out what the brand, what your customers care about, what kind of communities are buying from you, what they care about. It could be something like esports. It doesn't necessarily have to be you know, something to do with social good, but just giving them the platform, reposting their content, including it in marketing to show that you're aligned with that belief. And that, I think that really means something to a consumer.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, it's just so true, isn't it? Really, you just feel like that brand has got you, and of course you want to stay loyal to them because you've got a little bit there. You kind of feeling loved, I guess. And obviously, you guys, Andre, at VisualSoft, you've got some excellent merchants that use the platform. Is there any examples or any brands maybe that you want to shout out that you've seen that have maybe done a particular great loyalty campaign, or they've maybe gone that little bit further to make some of their customers feel valued? So properly putting you on the spot there.
Yes, indeed. No, I mean, we've got lots of good, you know, amazing brands that we work with. Obviously, VisualSoft, key sort of sector for us is fashion and footwear. So, you know, we work with Wonderbra, Moda and Pele. These, you know, brands have a fantastic customer experience on the site. And fashion is, you know, it's one of those where you have to get it right, because there are so many great fashion retailers out there. And obviously there's the likes of ASOS that Dom just mentioned, who are doing it absolutely brilliantly, you know, and they're providing such a good experience in terms of they know exactly what you want almost before you do. You know, you're on the site and kind of they're showing you everything relevant. They've tracked that data previously, and and lots of our sort of clients do it the same. You know, we've got Daniel Footwear as well, who provide a really customer experience on their site. So it's about understanding who the customer is. You know, you're tracking their data, but not in a scary way, in a way that's going to actually give them a good customer experience. So you know their gender, you know their size, you know, they've been on the site before, they might not have even made a purchase, they just used those filters previously. So it's like, well, remember that next time they're on the site, and make sure that they don't have to do all of those clicks again, because, you know, as we know, the more clicks, the more likely it is it's going to bounce, they're going to bounce and go somewhere else. So yeah, absolutely. It's we're always talking to our customers as well about how to deliver the best possible customer experience, how to reduce the number of clicks, and ultimately get more sales through the site. That's what we're all looking for. That's the end goal and what we're trying to do. But yeah, it was really interesting there. You know, Don was saying about like the likes of ASOS. More people are upping their game It used to be sort of the main fashion retailers that kind of, I guess, because they had the resource, they had the budget to be able to kind of invest in all these great pieces of tech on the site. But I think because of that, the sort of medium size or the smaller retailers have gone, well, we need to be doing the same. We now need to look at personalization, for example, which used to be sort of the something that only, you know, the larger retailers could afford to do. But I think now they can't afford not to do it. You know, those medium-sized retailers, it's like, well, everyone else is doing it. We need to make sure that we're delivering a great customer experience in terms of cross-sells, upsells, messaging, you know, post-purchase emails, all of those good things, really. So yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's all. I mean, you guys have shared some really important points there. And I know we've been on this slide for a little while now, and I'm sure everyone's been doing the maths in their head that how 27, 26, 24, 24, 18, 17, 44 adds up to 100%. It's obviously a heck of a lot more. So this is, of course, the way that we've done these statistics is kind of like on a sliding scale on what features most important to them. So if you're thinking, hang on a minute, how have these guys managed to add this up to 100%? That's obviously why, and these kind of feature that way. I thought I'd just clarify that because it was confusing me for a moment, and then I remembered on how we did it. But maybe just finally, guys, because I know we started with a negative about customer experience or a bad experience. Why don't we look at the blue column then? Maybe starting with you, Dominic, kind of putting you on the spot. Is there a time that you've just kind of had excellent customer service, whether that's online, maybe even in a restaurant, in a particular store? Is there something that kind of stands out to you?
On the spot.
Anytime you thought you'd gone, oh, that was snazzy.
Yeah, I think probably this is kind of contradictory because my brand that I love was going to be ASOS. However, something that I was really impressed with was I don't know if everyone's familiar with this brand, but a brand called Thread as in, you know, thread the needle kind of thing. And they're a subscription fashion service, and you basically get your own, and I still can't work out if they're a real person or not, but you get your own stylist. I think mine was initially called Toby, now it's someone called Ellie or something, and they pop up they do a great job in terms of CRM, in terms of they're always talking to me, and it's, for some reason I still haven't unsubscribed, even though I haven't bought loads from them. It, you know, I heard about them through word of mouth, and I signed up literally the next day when someone told me. I thought, what a great idea! It just shows how powerful word of mouth is. But the customer experience, whether it was virtual or not, it had a profound effect on me. It was just something that I wasn't used to. It was done so well that it made me feel like, oh wow, they've given me this questionnaire about everything I like, and then I've actually taken the time to do it, because a lot of people care a great deal about how things look on them, and they want someone to style them, and that's what I was imagining was going to happen at the end of it. And I did get some great recommendations, and I did buy from them. Again, convenience, the speed of delivery wasn't quite the same, and I think the customer experience, you know, with the personalization, ASOS is just as good, but it was a different kind of experience, and I think that's probably the one that comes to mind. Was Thread. It was really interesting.
I have seen that as well. I started going through that, and I thought, I'm going to end up spending so much money on clothes. I need to not go on this brand, because it was that slick going through it, and you're like, oh, I do feel really unique. I've got this personal stylist shopper with me.
Well, that's it. It's just making you feel like
special, wouldn't it?
Someone's
really
dedicated to you. And I guess there's other brands could take a leaf out of their book in other ways. If that's done virtually, and it's not a real person, then it goes to show it can be automated in some way by other brands, perhaps just little touches to make you feel like you're special.
Yeah, no, absolutely, definitely. And I can see everyone is popping some questions in the window as well, which is great. So we'll move on to that in a moment. And I thought maybe, Andre, finish with you as Dominic was talking there. Have you had a chance to maybe think about some great customer experience that you've had, a brand, maybe in a restaurant, like I was saying, or in store, for example?
Yeah, absolutely. So something that's relevant to me, having moved house twice over the last 2 years, it's quite an infrequent purchase, but AO.com for white goods. I just think they've got such a brilliant e-commerce experience, and from start to finish, their customer service is excellent as well. If you go on their site, I mean, they've got everything that you want to see as a consumer. So they've got that sort of trust signals along the top. You know, they're always there, whatever page you're on. You know, 100-day free returns. You know, the Trustpilot reviews are on there as well. You know, everything you want to see when you hit a site is there. You can find products really quickly. It's just a great on-site experience. But for me, obviously that's important, but then the post-purchase experience is so good with them as well. They text you as soon as your orders come through. Here's where you can expect your order. They text you, I think, the day before your delivery as well as a reminder. You know, they do all, again, it's down to communication, really. That's what I love as a consumer. I just want to be kept informed. Don't want to place my order and then think, well, is it going to turn up? You know, you know, sometimes it might not. So yeah, they keep you really well informed, and yeah, it's just a great customer experience. Although it's a product that you don't often buy, having moved twice in the last 2 years, I had to buy fridge freezers and washing machines, perhaps a bit more frequently.
Sexy purchase.
Sexy purchase indeed, but no, just a great customer experience. But they've, for a few years now, I think AO.com have absolutely nailed the online experience, and yeah, just a great brand, and I'll definitely keep using them, but hopefully won't leave the house for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's it. It's a stressful purchase as well, something like, because it's a big old bulky heavy thing, and you're like, sure, I'm going to be right paying. And I think they've got one of the catchiest jingles as well, haven't they? AO, let's go. I think I have part-time Tourette's sometimes. I just shout out when I'm alone at home when the adverts come on the telly or something. But awesome. Yeah. Well, look, gents, I really appreciate you sort of going kind of diving through this. I know we've shared a load of really important points. So I can sort of stress again, if you haven't already, please do download the ebook. I'll be showing the slide at the end of this this webinar. It's completely free, and there's loads of really cool stuff in here. And of course, you can hear from Visual Soft and Me Happy, but there's of course the other 6 other contributors as well to it. So there's even some different perspectives. But let's dive on into the questions then, these live questions, and just see what happens. So I'm going to try and unshare my screen and then pull up some of these questions. Right. I can see you both now, but I forgot how funky your backgrounds are. Lovely bit of artwork. But yeah, I've got a couple of questions then that we've come into. Please do keep them coming. If we don't get through them now, we will of course follow up with everyone afterwards. So Andre, we've had one come in. I think this would probably be best suited to you guys at Visual Soft. And so it says, how can online retailers strike a good balance between online customer experience, so UX, and offline customer experience fulfillment? Where should retailers be focusing their efforts to kind of maintain customer loyalty? Maybe that was I've muddled 2 questions there. So the first one, how can online retailers strike a good balance between online customer experience and an offline customer experience and fulfillment?
That's an interesting question. I mean, obviously both are really important, but I think, you know, primarily you obviously want the orders coming in. So I think really, you know, if you've got a choice of budget between spending it on online UX and kind of, you know, customer experience fulfillment, then I guess the former is more important. You know, you want to give, especially as we've just discussed, people are willing to switch brands. So make sure that on-site experience is amazing first. Get those orders coming through, then you can kind of look at tweaking your kind of fulfillment and your sort of post-purchase experience and all that kind of thing. But both are really important, because having said that, what I've just said right throughout this webinar is customer service is most important to me, you know, having that communication post-purchase. But I think if it's a choice between the two, I think get your on-site experience right first, you know, make sure people are buying from you, staying loyal to you, and then kind of enhance your post-purchase and your fulfillment afterwards.
Yeah, some great points there. And as I started to read it out, I feel like question time. I've started the question, so I will finish. Where should retailers be focusing their efforts then to maintain customer loyalty?
Yeah, so I think, again, on-site experience, you know, but also, you know, making sure that you've got all these different elements in place. So yeah, your personalization, making customers feel loved, you know, in terms of showing them the products that are relevant in those sort of cross-sell, upsell zones. Trust signals, as we've talked about as well, make sure you are, whatever format it takes, have reviews on your site and have real life content as well. UGC, as I'm sure Dom will mention, is so important, having that on the site, making sure customers know other people have bought and they're really happy with it. So I'm going to do the same. Like we've said, trust, communication is really important, and relevance, showing relevant products on the site too.
It just seems so simple, doesn't it? And it's such an important thing that gets overlooked time and time again. And it can be the difference, like we've seen, of people just switching brands and never coming back, because everyone knows obtaining new customers is far more expensive than kind of getting returning customers time and time again, basically. So Dominic, you're not off the hook. I've got a question for you that's come in that I think will be relevant to you guys. So where should brands look to feature this user-generated content? We've obviously been speaking about it a lot. Where do you reckon they should be featuring it on the kind of path to purchase?
Yeah, and that's a question we get a lot at MeHappy for prospective customers or customers that are looking to extend their use case with user-generated content. I mean, obviously, the possibilities are endless with any kind of content, particularly user-generated content. You can put it anywhere you wish, and technologies like MeHappy will help you to inject that live feed of that content into websites, into paid advertising. But I mean, it's an interesting one. But typically, we'd always say that the research suggests that user-generated content should be on e-commerce pages, because that's where you're going to have the maximum impact, and that's where you're going to have the attributable performance that you can see. A click leading to a purchase, a click on a piece of content. But when you look at it, the bigger picture, actually, it can subconsciously have an impact. Seeing, like I said, having the influence of giving a sense of community on the website, showing how loved that brand is, featuring content from customers everywhere, eventually leads to a feeling of FOMO, if you like, fear of missing out on the website, an experience that is completely different to another website that has no user-generated content. But back to the question about the path to purchase. Like I said, we normally default to say, on product pages, in cart pages, where it matters the most. If you think about the path to purchase, that's normally where that's the biggest opportunity to drop out of pulling the trigger, is when you're in the cart page, you're thinking, oh, can I really afford to buy an extra pair of trainers this month, or should I save up for, I don't know, a wedding or a holiday? All of these kind of thoughts are going through the consumer's mind. So that's really where it's probably most impactful, is on product pages, because that's where building the trust really matters, and just settling any doubts in the consumer's mind. But you can have it, on collection pages. We also enable brands to put it on collection pages, on the home page as well, to have the most impact for first-time visitors as well. But you can hit consumers earlier in that journey as well by putting it in paid advertising, so targeting your consumers on paid social, paid Insta, with social proof. Actually, even though it's kind of a little bit different in terms of format, we ran a UGC campaign with ITV, and in order to get brands on screen during the pandemic, when they couldn't necessarily go out and film, they wanted to source UGC versions of iconic ads. It's like one of my favorite use cases. And they basically got consumers to submit their own versions of, like, the Weetabix submarine ad, and the Honda ad where you have the nuts and bolts rolling on and then the flag comes up and that kind of stuff. But anyway, long story short, the campaign did a story on that particular ad campaign, and found that the UGC recreations of those adverts had better recall than the originals, and obviously had heightened emotional reaction to them as well. So it shows, if you put them into paid advertising and hit your prospective customers with that content, it's probably the best chance you have of evoking the response you want, using content from real customers.
Yeah,
that's probably the longest maybe last answer. No, that helps.
No, it's so true. I mean, we've all seen the memes on Facebook, haven't we? Expectations versus reality. Someone's bought a cheap cake and they want it to look amazing. It turns up and it's all spelt wrong and a mess, or it's supposed to look like this and it looks like that. So I think drawing upon some research that my previous employer at Trustpilot did, I think it's something like user-generated content on the product page. So images of the product is trusted like 4 or 5 times more than any company product description or advertising. People want to see what it looks like when it arrives, because it looks all sexy in the glossy kind of corporate images, doesn't it? But you want to see what it looks like when it gets it home. So
yeah. And sorry to interrupt, yeah. Just thinking about, I love the fact that with Fresh Relevance, we can combine the power of that influential content with, real-time personalization, because then you can, if someone's coming back to a site after having looked at that pair of trainers, what better time to hit them with a positive customer wearing those? And there, there's multiple roles that user-generated content can play. It can inspire cross purchases, buying the trousers that go with that or another colorway of that trainer, as well as just reassuring that initial purchase. So if you hit them when they come back and it's kind of still in their mind about that product and they've come back to look at something else, what better way to remind them and reassure them than with someone wearing that pair of trainers and reinforcing that feeling of FOMO.
Yeah, and then you just go, oh my god, how did they know? I'm going to have to get them immediately. Oh look, they're in stock. Oh, they look great. That's it. I'm going to have to get them ordered. But awesome. I think we're pretty much just coming up to time now. So thank you everyone for popping those questions in. And like I've said a couple of times, we'll of course all follow up with you individually and get those answered. But I'll just finish with the final kind of couple of slides then. So I'll share my screen and then ask if everyone can see my screen. Let's have a little look here then. Okay, I've done it from the beginning, haven't I? Classic. Here we go. That's the one that we want. From current slide. There we go. So as you can sort of see here, everyone, we've got all of our personal email addresses here. So it's Andre, Dominic, myself. If you want to reach out to us directly, please do. We would honestly love to hear you. And just really quickly to kind of finish off then from my amazing panelists today, start with you, Andre, as you're next to me. Is there one brand that you just love that you've been loyal to for ages? And if so, sort of what is it that kind of keeps you there, basically?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a cliche, but I'm an Apple fanboy and I'll always be an Apple fanboy. And I think the reason why is just, it's the UX on their products is just fantastic. I know there are other brands who the machines are more powerful, the tech is more powerful. For me, it's everything syncs, Apple Watch, phone, laptop, it all just works. It's just a fantastic UX and I will never change.
No, it is slick, isn't it?
It just works. And
yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
And Dominic, over to you.
I think as a gamer, I was going to say a closet gamer, but I'm probably just a straight up gamer. PlayStation, so Sony. It's a bit of a difficult one because I know that other brands, it's not like for like really. You can't really compare PlayStation to a lot of other e-commerce brands, but it's a brand I've grown up with, and I think they do an expert job in terms of community marketing on socials and reposting people's content. Again, back to that Dove example that I mentioned, it kind of relates to that. A lot of gaming brands do this, but PlayStation do it particularly well, is giving consumers, giving gamers the tools to become creators and to have a voice. So making it really easy to screen share, and I think they recently developed a feature which allows you to directly upload content straight to your mobile. And so being able to share your own screen recording, screenshots without necessarily being a full whack influencer, gaming vlogger, it makes you feel a bit special, if they're reposting your content. I know recently they did a Pets of PlayStation campaign, which we shouted about on LinkedIn, just really little small campaigns, which can easily be done by anyone, but they just did it really well. But yeah, other than that, I mean, PlayStation, I love them now, and it's meant that I've gone on to buy Sony Bravias as well. So I've gone to buy other products. But other than that, I guess it's ASOS again, really. They do a great job in terms of personalization on site. They've got verified reviews and, again, convenience. I love and pay for their next day delivery service, and I couldn't think of life without it, really.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think for me, I'll maybe finish off with one as a little bit of a different one for you. So my little village that I grew up in has a hardware shop that's been owned by it's like the third generation that have owned it. Basically, it's been there like 80 years, and it has got pretty much everything in it. And you go in there, and the customer service you get is amazing. So I'll go in and go, oh, I need some new grass seed. Oh, is it in a shady patch? Is it in this patch? You need this, you need that. And they just know everything. And one thing that's quite nice that they do, if they don't stock that specific product or they can't help out, they'll actually recommend you to the competitor in the next village along. I know that they have it over in so-and-so hardware. Go over there, speak to this guy. It's great. So they kind of actually go that one step beyond and trying to kind of keep you in store and say, oh, sorry, we don't have it. See you later. It's, we don't have it. However, just 10 minutes down the road, they'll probably have it. Do you want me to ring them now for you? The service is just amazing. Sort of old school, basically. I thought I'd sort of share that one. And to kind of finish off then, just want to thank everyone that's dialed in this afternoon to listen to this webinar / panel discussion. We've really, really enjoyed having you. And this is the link to the ebook, of course, that we've been featuring around our discussion today. So please go ahead and download if you haven't already. It's completely free. There's some fantastic insight in there. And of course, I just want to thank you guys, Dominic and Andre. You guys have been great. Really appreciate having you this afternoon. And yeah, we hope to catch up with everyone soon.
Thanks, guys. Pleasure.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.